Today, we're diving into the hidden science of something we see all the time but probably don't think much about, shedding. And you are not going to believe where this one simple idea takes us.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like the setup for a really weird joke, right? But the answer reveals this single, absolutely fascinating principle that governs everything from the natural world around us to our most advanced technology. So here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with how nature uses shedding to survive. Then we'll see how engineers literally copied that idea to protect our power grid. After that, we're going to flip the whole thing on its head and see why sometimes shedding is the one thing you have to prevent. And finally, we'll tie it all together with the one universal idea that connects them all.
All right, our story starts with a scene we've all seen. A cool autumn day, leaves falling from the trees. But what looks like a tree just giving up for the winter is actually an incredibly sophisticated move for survival.
Yeah, there's a fancy scientific name for this, abscission. But this isn't some passive process of decay. No, this is an active, controlled decision. The tree is strategically choosing to shed parts of itself to make sure the whole organism survives. So how does a tree just let go of a leaf so perfectly? Well, at the base of every leaf stem, the tree builds something called an abscission zone. You can almost think of it like a perforated line on a piece of paper. It's designed to be a perfect breaking point. So when the time is right, snap, the leaf just detaches, clean as a whistle, and the tree seals up the wound to protect itself from any diseases. So what kicks this whole process off? It's actually pretty simple. Sunlight. The days get shorter, there's less light, and that's the signal to the tree. It says, hey, stop wasting energy on these leaves and start saving up everything you've got to make it through the winter. It is a brilliant, built-in survival kit. Okay, so a tree sheds to save energy and protect itself. Hold that thought. Because what if I told you that the power grid, our power grid, does the exact same thing for pretty similar reasons?
And that's our next stop, the world of engineering, where the art of letting go isn't just a good idea. It's a matter of survival for our entire infrastructure.
It's called prioritized load shedding, and when demand for electricity goes through the roof, way more than the system can supply, the grid doesn't just crash, it makes a choice. It intelligently and intentionally cuts power to certain areas to prevent the whole network from collapsing into a massive blackout.
And look at this. This is the perfect visual for it. Remember that abscission zone on the leaf stem? Well, engineers literally design weak points into the grid. These are the places that are designed to fail first under stress. They're like a safety valve, protecting the entire system from a catastrophic failure that could cascade everywhere.
And this is so important to understand. A blackout from load shedding isn't the system failing, it's the system working. It's saving itself. By sacrificing a few branches, it protects the trunk. And that means critical services, hospitals, fire departments, emergency responders, they stay online when we need them the most. And believe me, this is not random. It's not like someone is just flipping a switch. It's an incredibly precise, data-driven process. This table here is a great example. The system is watching the grid's frequency constantly. If that frequency starts to drop too fast, which is a sure sign of overload, automated systems know exactly how much power to cut, how many megawatts to shed, and exactly how fast to do it to bring everything back into balance.
Okay, so shedding is the hero of our story so far, right? It saves trees, it saves our power grid, but what if it's not the solution? What happens when shedding itself is the absolute biggest problem you're facing?
Well, that brings us to our final and maybe most fascinating example. Because there are places on this planet where the rules are completely flipped upside down. Places where the #1 goal is to stop shedding completely. We are talking about clean rooms. These are the pristine, hyper-controlled labs where we build things like satellites, cook up life-saving drugs, and fabricate the microchips that are in, well, everything. In these rooms, even one single stray particle can be an absolute disaster. Just to give you a sense of what's at stake here, look at these numbers. The standards for clean rooms are just mind-boggling. An ISO 8 room, maybe where you put on your gear, allows over 3 million particles. But an ISO 5 room, where they might assemble delicate optics, it allows only 3,500. That is 1,000 times cleaner. The air in there is purer than anything you will ever find in nature. So in this incredibly pure environment, what's the biggest source of dirt, of contamination? What's the one thing that can't stop shedding? Yep, it's us. People are by far the biggest contamination risk. Think about it. We are shedding all the time. We're talking millions of skin cells every single day. Plus, there's hair, microbes, fibers from our clothes, even tiny droplets when we breathe. We are literally walking, talking clouds of particles.
And the consequences of all this natural human shedding? They're huge. A single tiny particle of skin lands in the wrong spot, and you've just ruined a billion-dollar satellite. One microbe gets into a vial, and an entire batch of medicine has to be thrown out. In this world, shedding isn't a strategy for survival, it's the definition of critical failure.
Okay, let's take a step back. We've looked at a tree in a forest, a massive power grid, and a super sterile clean room. 3 totally different worlds. So what's the thread that ties them all together?
It really comes down to these 3 phases of shedding. For nature, it's a strategy for survival. For our technology, it's a copy of that strategy, a way to maintain stability. And for our most advanced innovations, it's the one challenge we have to overcome.
And that right there, that's the big idea. It's all about the controlled management of detachment. Knowing when to let go, when to cut something off, or when to prevent anything from breaking away in the first place. That's the secret to keeping any complex system running, whether it's biological, mechanical, or even social.
And that's where I want to leave you. Start thinking about this principle. Where else do you see it? Maybe in a business that has to shed an unprofitable division to stay afloat? Or even in our own lives, when we have to let go of old habits to grow. It turns out the science of shedding is absolutely everywhere.